So how do you let go of importance on something that is really genuinely important to you? In today's video, I'm going to deep dive with you on a seemingly paradoxical topic of how we actually create in reality by simultaneously going all in with our vision, what it is we want, and at the same time, completely releasing the importance of it in our lives. I'm Danielle Lynn. I have conversations with creative teachers, people, alchemists at play, such as yourself, and it's my perspective that if you found this video, then on some level you're choosing to create more effectively in your life in ways that genuinely satisfy you. Well done. When there's something we deeply want in life, and this could be anything from a big, audacious vision to just something you want in your day-to-day life, maybe a coffee or a type of food, or maybe it's even something seemingly short-term, having a certain business deal go through or something happen at your work. Whatever it is that you want, the more you focus your energy and attention towards it from the state of, I want it, I need it, what you are doing is you are amplifying the importance of reaching that experience in your life. I invite you to consider this and see if this holds true in your own life. When there's something that we place so much importance on that it takes up a good deal and energy in our space, in our headspace, we inevitably not only start thinking about it, but generally our minds will start to compute about it. It will start to think about, how do I get it? How can I bring it in? On the positive side. On the perceived negative side, it might start thinking, ooh, what might go wrong? What do I have to do to get this to happen? Should I do this? Should I do that? All the while, an enormous amount of energy is spent in what we call scientifically spinning one's wheels. While you are spinning your wheels, what is happening is instead of being in the present moment, you are somewhat distracted. You are somewhat in your head. Not only this, but you have placed so much importance on whatever this thing is that the present moment no longer feels as exciting as the projected future in which you and the important thing you are perceiving are united. Again, whether this is a relationship, an outcome, an experience, what have you. Another way to say this is when we have an over-attachment to the way a specific outcome must happen in our minds, then we inadvertently close off the possibilities of the ways that the outcome can reach us. As an example, if we say we want amazing love, amazing relationships, but we're very fixated on one person, and perhaps that person isn't available to us right now for whatever reason, there may be a more harmonious, resonant relationship available, the pathway at the very least, available from right here, right now. And it could have all the elements that are desired from that other perceived person or relationship, but instead of being a mental construct, it actually exists. However, so long as the importance is placed on a specific person or specific outcome, then inadvertently any other possibility is blocked off. You see, when you have that much energy focused towards an important outcome, there's another thing going on. You are not actually living, you're not actually embodying in the resonance of having it. When something is important from the perspective of you are perceiving you will reach it at a future time, you have placed yourself in a time loop where something important arrives in the future and you're not there at the present moment. So the energetic emphasis is being placed on the experience of you not arriving at the thing it is that you want. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're doing anything wrong if that is the way you choose to focus on things. Sometimes anticipation can be really fun and exciting. It can sometimes be fun. If you're in a situation where you really want to experience the object of your perceived desire, then in my reality, I'll walk you through what I've seen to be true. You choose something. We can use this channel as an example. So I experienced, it was a delightful calling to have conversations like this. I delight in this experience with you. We're having a good time. I'm having a good time. And I understood that if I made this important, in the sense of, if I applied this sense of the videos must turn out this way, this many people must see them, it has to be responded to this way, I was depleting my own sense of joy and creativity. What I did was I created parameters of commitment towards this process. I embodied being a creator in this way. And part of the embodiment of being a creator in this way was to have a channel, have a regularly submitted video schedule, was to have experiences, ways to interact with you, my friend, and was the heartfelt commitment, the heart part, which for me boiled down to whether it was one people or a million people connecting in the conversation, it would find the resonant person at the resonant moment, and ultimately we would deeply enjoy ourselves, have a satisfying conversation for the betterment of all involved. And as such, once all those premises were in place, I released the expectation of how everything had to come together. Instead, I was already committed to the end outcome. It was already there. It was no longer a question of if it was going to come into play. It was. And in a way, it was almost like a diminishment of the excitement or the expectation of it, because there was this, and is this, knowing that I had already arrived at that place. So as such, all that was left to do was to take the resonant steps as they came up, which in my case was to create the videos, to be in tune, to put them up at the specific times, and to continue to tap into my creativity as I went. And to use the analogy of this channel, you can look back over the course of these videos to see the iterative creative process that came into flow and play. Now, if I was very, very concerned about how it was all going to turn out, then the energy that I placed into the creativity would have been instead placed into potentially worrying or attempting to overconstruct something. When I have these conversations, I have a lot of fun with us. These are very free flow. Very free flow. Yes, they're very free flow conversations. And I find in that way they're very playful as well. And yet so much is done. I say this because I know that I experience deeper enrichment in my own life through having these conversations. It's, to me, a very mutually expansive, wonderful experience to have with you. And in the comments, the reflections that are left, I am experiencing that the same is being felt. And so in this way, this experience of the channel is an expression of releasing the importance to allow something that is resonant, that is genuine, that is easeful to come through. I find that for me, these conversations are now a natural part of my way of being. So as such, they are both of deep value and significance to me, but without the perceived attachment to the outcome of how they have to be. So as such, I can go all in. I can be present. I can be of myself here without grasping or clasping onto it as a form of importance. So another way to look at that would be if you have a business and you're talking to a client and or a potential client, and you're seeing if they will work with you, and they go, well, not right now, then you just go, wonderful. I'm certain it will work out in the most resonant way. I say this as someone who's experienced a lot of business in my life, and I can understand the amount of investment, time, and energy that goes into engaging in a potential client meeting. I have still found that the less you insist upon yourself, interestingly enough, it actually amplifies your magnetism. So without even actually intending to draw people in a certain way, you do. It's kind of like the exclusive nightclub. It's sort of like the restaurant that, quote unquote, doesn't need your business, but it has amazing food, and so you'd want to eat there. I'm not suggesting attempting to fake scarcity of your time or energy. I am suggesting that if you approach life with a sense of ease and an underlying perspective that everything that's working out the way it is ultimately for your highest joy in some way, some form, and that you can trust the bridge of incidences that is happening. And even if things don't work out to the level your mind thought they would work out to, that on some level it is still working out. And instead of being resistant, you can be curious. And if you find yourself resistant, that's all right. You can then just embrace the resistance and be curious about you feeling resistant. And if you don't feel that, then be resistant about being resistant about being resistant. Eventually you find the place of, okay, yes, and now what? And you start to see, again, to quote something from the being known as Bashar, circumstances do not matter. State of being matters. The way you are being is what matters in reality. When we are being someone who overemphasizes importance, it's almost like choking on to an outcome. And the more we seem to grasp at something, the more it seems to slip from our fingers. At least this has been my experience. And you might see it similar as well. So, what's the answer then? If there's something really important to you, because you may perceive this as, well, yes, that's all well and good, but something's still incredibly important to me. Then the question you get to ask yourself if something is important to you is, where have I placed my sense of self in this experience or in this person or this outcome? If something is deeply important to you to the point where you might get upset, you ask yourself, where did I place a portion of my power or sense of self into the permission slip of the outcome having to happen a certain way in order to reflect back to me who I am? Because any time I find that we take life that seriously, then we have consciously or unconsciously given an external circumstance, an external experience, permission to have power over our experience or perception of self. Get curious. The thing is, a lot of times when we follow these threads, then we often find places where we anchored our sense of self into something like a job or a relationship or how people perceive us or how we perceive ourselves. And none of that is a judgment. It's simply an opportunity for awareness. None of the things we experience here are judgments. We know what we know, we don't know what we don't know, and I find the more we tend to think we know, the more we open up the space to find out we don't know nearly as much as we thought we did. I speak from experience. And I have found that the more lightness that we have in our lives with these things, especially as we're approaching perceived shadow parts of self, especially as we're approaching some of our unknowns, our desires, our things that are sticky within our being, the more lightness we have with that, the more we actually give space for the things we want to connect with us. I'm going to say, my friend, if you have something of importance to you, you're attached to, and you're watching this video, be kind to yourself, please. We all have had and may even have experiences of importance. And it's not a blame, as I've mentioned. The video has arrived because it's an opportunity for you to get experimental and curious with it. See, I love the prospect of experiment, of curiosity, because it shifts completely away from this concept of we're doing something one way or another, and instead brings us right to the core of what's possible and probable for us. We don't need to battle something out within ourselves, because we can simply arrive at a place where things are allowed to exist as they are, maybe even embraced as they are, and we can also look at what else is possible. Your ability to perceive many perspectives simultaneously that are at seeming oppositions with each other allow you more space and movement within this reality to connect with different possibilities with more and more instantaneousness. This is why this is why I often bring up paradox. Our ability to surf with paradox allows us to be that much more playful with reality, that much less stuck on the need to know or understand why before something can happen, and gives us more flexibility in the way that we approach possibilities. It's like energy parkour. Ooh, I like this. It's like energy parkour to have flexible perspectives, because it allows ease, it allows momentum, and it allows us to see what is possible from any given point and moment and lean into that momentum rather than attempting to pause and control it. And that's the other area that I'll emphasize. See, importance on some level is about control. Importance, when we place importance on something, we have an expectation and attachment to outcome. Attachment to outcome will sometimes create mental ideas of how something has to come into place. The less attachment to outcome we have, the more possibilities and the more perspectives become available to us that can connect us with outcomes that resonate with a similar frequency or experience to the one you prefer. I'm going to say this another way. I'm also going to move my leg. Fell asleep. Okay. Importance is like the spark when starting a fire. Once you ignite that spark, the fire catches and it burns. It's no longer necessary to continue to make sparks. In a similar way, importance is like that spark. We see it, we acknowledge it, and then we make a choice to either embody the resonance of the spark of importance, and therefore it is, and now we no longer need to hold on to importance, or we let it go. Either way, it is an act of embodied trust that allows us to shift from a place of imagining and inspiration into a place of having and being. And so, for today's closing thought with all of this, I will share that as you explore the things that may have been of importance to you in your life and in your experience, to give yourself the opportunity to be thankful within yourself that you had these connections, these things that have inspired you so. I invite you to consider, as you explore things that you've placed importance on, what part of the importance was genuinely important to you? And can you identify why? And if not, can you be curious about it? Life is built in a way where you can naturally connect to your points of thriving, whatever thriving means for you uniquely. But in my experience, I find it does involve your consent, your perspective, your permission to be so with you. So, I'm glad that we've had this opportunity to connect, to explore things around importance. And I imagine that you'll have that much more spaciousness around the things you perceive, and perhaps a new perspective on how to navigate some of the things that were once of importance to you that now get to be embodied and explored should you so choose. Now, if this video has been of service, please do like, share, and subscribe. And I have some resources in the description link. And in all cases, I'm looking forward to our next conversation together. Goodbye for now.